Welcome to the Keys to Success. I'm your host, Deba Douglas. I am rolling solo today because my wonderful co host, Talisa Stubbs, is doing a conference. So we are rooting for you and hoping that the conference goes well. And we can't wait to hear about it next week. But I am here today because I wanted to just take some time out and talk to you about some ways that I have failed in this real estate game because I feel like I post a lot about some great things that are happening in my life and great things that are happening in my mentee's life. But I do want to talk about some realness of like the stuff does not always hit all the time. We don't always get home runs all the time. So I want to spin and just literally speak from my heart and really just share with you when real estate goes bad and how bad it gets and how you overcome it. And one thing I really want you to hear when I talk about these things is that I'm being real. I'm a real person. I don't know everything. I don't want to come off like I know everything, but I do know how to push through regardless of what it looks like. So I'm going to tell you about 4 different ways that I have messed up on this real estate game. And when I say messed up, I've lost money, I've lost sleepless nights. It's just been a whole hot mess. And I just want to be honest with you. So because I'm solo, I'm going to need you to chat with me. I'm going to be watching the chat. Please let me know if you have any questions because, hey, I just want this to be a real deal, transparent conversation. So I hope you're ready. Okay, so the first story I want to tell you about how I messed up in this real estate game is wholesaling. So, wholesaling for a lot of you guys is literally you are getting a house under contract from the seller, and you are now selling that contract or that piece of paper to the end buyer, which is someone like myself that buys properties, and an investor that's going to either keep it as a rental or flip the house. So as the wholesaler, you are the plug, you're the middle person of getting the house from the seller, and now you're trying to get an end buyer. So there was a particular house that I got under contract, I want to say last year in Carrollton. And it was a really nice house, really good deal. Unfortunately, I wrote the contract wrong. And I wrote it where there was no option period. And I was giving the $5,000 non refundable deposit. So ideally, I just knew in my heart, I was overly confident that I was like, I'm gonna find a buyer. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna find somebody to buy this. So I went ahead and signed that contract and I decided, hey, I'm gonna go out and see if I can find me a buyer to buy this contract. Well, the sellers were pretty savvy. They only gave me like 5 days to find a buyer. And normally for a good deal, it's pretty easy to find a buyer in 5 days. But I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. I could not find a buyer. So I'm literally getting on Facebook groups. I'm reaching out to all of my buyers that I know buy. I'm even reaching out to people in my family that, hey, you want to get into real estate? I think you need to buy this deal. And the deal actually made decent sense, but a lot of the issues were going to be I'm going to have to pull permits because there's no longer electrical meter on the house. The house needed an extensive amount of work, probably about a 70 to 80K worth of rehab, but the house had good bones. So I just knew, hey, it's going to work out. Let me tell y'all, the 5th day came around and it was like 3 o'clock and I still did not have a buyer. And so pretty much that 5th day by 5 o'clock, if I did not have a buyer, I was about to lose $5,000 of my money, hard earned money, because hey, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of work to get to $5,000. I could not find a buyer. So I lost $5,000. That hurts so bad. Heck, that hurts me right now just thinking about it. And I don't think I ever told anybody about it because I felt so bad other than my husband because he's going to see the money in the account was gone. And so I went back and pleaded with the seller and I was like, hey, just give me a couple more days. I think I may have a buyer, blah, blah, blah. They were like, no, not going to work. And I lost $5,000. So now it was a loss, an L. I took it for the team. But now what I do when I do wholesale deals, if I know I'm not going to buy that property, if I can't find an end buyer, I will always put an option period for me so that if I need to get out, I will get out. Then the other thing I will do is I'm not going to put up the $5,000 non-refundable. I'm going to just give myself my option period for maybe 5 to 10 days, and I'm going to let the end buyer put that house under contract and pay for that amount of money, that non-refundable. So I've learned, I don't wish that on anybody to lose $5,000, but I will tell you it was probably the most expensive $5,000 lesson that I have ever learned. So when I do wholesale deals, I am very particular about the contract. I don't let anybody else write my contracts for wholesale deals. I will write them. And if I do have someone write it, which is my director of operations, I will go back and double check it because I cannot lose out on money just thin air. So I had to give that money up. And even to this day, my heart hurts for that money because I just gave that money away. So that's one of my L's that I took wholesaling. The other one that I did was you have to get the right team. And what I mean by the right team, if you're an investor, you have to have a solid realtor. And you have to have someone that understands investments. And honestly, I wouldn't work with any realtor that doesn't have any investment properties. That's my personal feel about it. You can hang me later, but I'm going to keep it 100 with you. If you're not in the investment world and then you trying to tell me how to invest and I get more returns on investing, why aren't you doing it? That's what I'm gonna ask. Like, why aren't you doing it? And if you're not doing it and you giving me advice, I'm sorry, I just cannot take it. But let me tell you my reason because of that. So before I decided to walk away from my principal job, my husband and I were investing while we both had our full-time jobs. And I trusted my realtor, and it's on me. Like, that's completely on me. I trusted my realtor far too much. And she would tell me, hey, the comps show that it's going to be this amount. I didn't even ask for comps. That's how dumb I was. I didn't even ask for comps. And nowadays, I'm not doing that. I want to see comps. Even if I have someone on my team run comps for me, or maybe a wholesaler run comps for me, I want to see those comps for myself because I want to look at the house. I want to see what the finish outs they used on the property. I just need to know it for myself because at the end of the day, it's your money and you cannot just pawn it off and hope for the best that another realtor has your ultimate goal in their mindset. They don't have it. So this particular house, and I'm going to tell you the breakdown on this whole ordeal, is a hot ass mess. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I bought this deal from the MLS for $65,000 in the south side of Fort Worth. At that time, I did not know about hard money lenders. So we were either using our cash or we were getting it conventional and running everything through our personal names. Don't do that. But at that time, that's all we knew. So we bought it for $65,000. Unfortunately, right before we were about to close, when the appraisal went out, they appraised the house and they said it was uninhabitable. So therefore, they were not going to lend us money for the loan for this house. So the only way they were going to lend us money for the loan for this house is if we do the rehab prior to closing. Another thing, my realtor should have told me not to do that. But what did she say? Yeah, you should do it. That's normal. That ain't normal. No one is doing that. And if anyone tells you to do that, run because all they're doing is trying to get their 2 or 3% commission. Run to the hills and do not look back. So, because I didn't know any better, knowledge is power, right? I went ahead and did that. So we literally got a contractor. We got them to give us we got the seller to give us about 6 weeks to do the rehab. So while I'm a principal, I'm literally sprinting, leaving work, driving 50 miles out to Fort Worth, Texas to check on this property literally every other day. But I didn't even own it. At that time, the sellers still owned the property while we were doing the rehab. I'm just blessed that God covered me on that because I didn't even know any better. So we doing the rehab. Finally, the rehab is done. They sent the appraiser back to make sure that now the house is habitable. Somebody can live there. Once they did that, then we were able to close on the property. Finally, we closed on the property. After we closed on the property, then it was time for us to do a cash out refinance because we got a tenant in there. And so now the house is ready to go because we're doing the BRRRR strategy. And if you don't know what the BRRRR strategy is, that is my way to wealth where I buy properties that are distressed. I rehab them, I rent them out, and then I do a cash out refinance and I get all my money back. So now it was time for we got the house rented out. Now it's time to do the cash out refinance. I'm still talking to that realtor that helped me get into the house. I should already be mad at her, but hey, I didn't know any better. She tells me that the house should appraise for 120, 130. Y'all, that house appraised for 103,000. And mind you, at the time, my cash out refinance lender is only giving me 75% of the ARV. So 75% of 103 is quite different than 75% of 120, 130 that they originally told me. So you could imagine my stress. So I call that realtor up and I'm like, hey, you told me it was going to price for 130, 120. Like, where are your comps? Because I need to show the appraiser this and show my lender so we can at least try to challenge this appraisal. Crickets. She never called me back. She never picked up the phone. I'm texting her. All you see is my blue thread over and over and over again, and she never responds. At that time, I was not a realtor. I did not know my rights as as an agent, as a client. I did not know I could go to her broker. I didn't know. I mean, and that's on me. That a lot of this is on me. But you got to have a strong team. And to this day, I still own that property. I have not done a cash out refinance since that property, since I did all that with her. The property does cash flow well, but is it real cash flow if I still got money in the deal? No, it's not. Let's just keep it 100. Either I'm cash flowing or I'm not. There's no gray. There's no gray in between. So, just to keep it real with y'all, you got to have a solid realtor on your team. So that is why I say when you are interviewing realtors, especially if you're not using me and my team, then you need to ask them, hey, are you an investor? If you are, where do you invest? And why do you invest there? And what is your real estate strategy of investing? Do you flip? Do you do rentals? What do you do? Because just because they may flip houses, they may have no idea how to do the BRRRR strategy, or vice versa. They may know the BRRRR strategy, but they may have never flipped a house. So they don't know what to tell you of finish outs and what to do. You got to have a solid team. If you do not have a solid team, especially a strong realtor, I'm telling you, the market is going to eat you alive. And that was my telltale sign that I learned. And literally at that moment, I was like, I can be a realtor because I can be real with my clients and tell them they should buy it or they shouldn't buy it. And if you are any of my mentees, you know I will tell you in a heartbeat, let's not buy that property. And because I do mentor a lot of people, I always look at it at the lens of, would I buy this property? And if I would buy this property, would I be comfortable with these numbers? Because real estate is a numbers game. It's not emotional. It's not, oh, it feels good. No, it's numbers. We follow the numbers and it's basic math. We go 75% of the ARV minus repairs. Do the numbers make sense? If it does not make sense, we move on, and we move on quickly. We don't say, oh, well, maybe I could do this, or maybe if you have to say all that, it's not a good deal. You move on, period. You just move on. Okay, so I've given you two reasons of my fails and my losses of what I've done as a investor. I got two more to give you. Now, this one, I'm very hard-headed. I don't know if my brother is listening to me or my husband is listening to this, but I am so hard-headed, and they usually get the brunt of all my craziness. That my other issue is I'm cheap as heck. And I want to say I'm not cheap. I'm more frugal, and I'm more like wanting to think that I'm smarter than the game, and I'm not. And I continue to fall for it. So it's contractors. So I have lost a lot of money trying to be cheap with contractors. And I am learning 5 years in the game that I'd rather just pay the first time. And so what I have learned is that sometimes I will get several bids from different contractors. And in the past, I'm gonna just be honest, we're being transparent here. I usually will go with the cheaper bid. It never works in my favor. It hasn't worked in my favor yet, but I still do it. I don't know why, because I just want to be so cheap and I still deal with it. But it never works in my favor. If anything, I deal with stress. I deal with sleepless nights. I deal with having to babysit contractors. I deal with having to tell them, like, why did you put this upside down? Why is the outlet upside down? Why did you put the door knob upside down? Why did you put the plug there instead of in the cabinet? Why? And I'm not in a place where I can babysit people. I got 3 kids and I don't have time to babysit anybody else but my children. But I continue to do that. Why? Because I like to be cheap. But I will tell you, I have learned the hard way. And I'll give you an example. So I had a rental that I didn't do any plumbing work, and that was on me. Going forward, I do plumbing work on all my rentals because I'm going to keep it for the long term, and I don't want any drainage issues once the tenants have moved in. But on this particular rental, I did not do that. I just made everything pretty and thought, hey, it'll work out. Then the tenants move in, and now there's some issues with the drainage. And so I called my plumber that I've used several different times, and he's decent. I mean, he's not A1, but I mean, he gets the job done. He goes out and he gives me a bid, and I'm like, I'm not paying that. I think the bid was to like change out the plumbing line all the way from the clean out. And he told me it was going to be $5,000. I'm like, I don't have $5,000. So I'm not going to pay for that. So what did I do? I got on my little trusty Facebook group, or I reached out to some other investors that I know and say, hey, you got somebody that's cheaper than this bid that I just got? And they're like, yes, sure. So I send out that guy, and he's like, oh, I can do it for 2,500. You know, I'm smiling from ear to ear, like, oh, I just did that. I won. Yeah, 2,500. He gets the job. It takes him 3 weeks to get it done. My tenants have not been able to use the restroom. Now they're threatening that they're going to call the city on me. And now they're threatening that they're like, hey, you need to put us up in a hotel. And I'm not going to do that. So I'm wasting time. I'm having to babysit him. Hey, when are you going to go out? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go out today. I just need to get this and need to get that. Okay. That takes 3 weeks to get done. If I would have already paid the $5,000, I would have already been done. My tenants would not be mad at me. I wouldn't be dealing with, hey, they're going to call the city on me and dealing with that stress level. Because I'm not a slumlord. I'm not. I'm not a slumlord. But at that moment, I'm learning, like, just pay and be done with it. Because one thing I want to do, I want to make sure that my tenants are in a good, safe, sound house. And I want to make sure that anybody that I have going over to the house is going to do the job, and they're going to do it efficiently, and they're going to do it quick and fast so that my tenants can move on with their life. And that is one thing I've had to learn, because I still catch myself doing that, because at the end of the day, I'm following numbers, and my bid has to fall into a certain number to make sense for everything. So that is one thing I'm going to tell you. Don't be cheap. Don't be me. I literally have done this over and over again. And then I will tell myself I'm going to do better. And then I'll do better. And then like something will come back in me and say, oh no, go back and do it a little bit cheaper. No, and I'll be honest with you, at this point now, I'll just pay. I will pay, because I have too much going on, and I can't move backwards because you're not moving at the level of excellence that I need you to move in. And I'm learning that. And I had to learn the hard way, because I am frugal. I'm working on saying I'm not cheap. I'm frugal. But now I'll just pay, because I don't even want to bargain with people like, hey, what's your price is what your price is, because I want to show that I value you, because I don't want nobody telling me, oh, I can't list your house. I want you to list my house for 1%. We're not doing that. So that's one thing I've learned. So I've showed you 3 things that I have learned with getting L's in real estate investing, because the L's are real and they do happen, and they happen often. The other thing is getting a mentor. Okay, so yes, I know a lot about real estate investing, but I don't know everything. And what I have learned is that when I get connected with someone that knows more than I do, it's easy for me to move faster, and it's easy for me not to stumble and get stumbled in things that I probably shouldn't do, because now my mentor is guiding me and showing me a better way to do it. They're connecting me with the right people. They're giving me the better lenders. They're just giving me what I need to move the needle to my business faster, instead of me going through it and then I'm making mistakes and then I'm feeling like I'm never going to get to where I need to be. Mentors just help you move faster. Like my first mentor that I had was Daniel Klein. He's been on the show for us many times. And one thing that I loved about Daniel is that he was like, you need to bring value to me. He knew I knew nothing. And I was just like, well, tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. People that are at the level that he is at, they don't want you to just be like, well, can I pick your brain? They don't want that. They want you to bring some type of value to them. And so my value add was for Daniel was, hey, are you buying lists, or how are you reaching out to these sellers? Let me buy the list for the next 6 months. And then you just show me what to do. And not only did he let me do that, he actually let me like listen in on his calls and how he was talking to the seller. And then he would say, okay, we've done these calls, we've done these lists, we're still not getting anything. So you really want me to mentor you? You go find the deal. And he gave me one reason, one way to find the deal. And he said, just post on social media that you're looking for cash houses. I did that relentlessly. So if you go back to Douglas Dwellings way in the back in like 2017, 2018, I was just posting every day, hey, how do you buy houses for cash? I finally found a deal. And he literally helped me, walk me through the entire deal. And I'm going to be honest with you. He helped me through the entire deal, and his take back was 50%. Now, I know a lot of y'all going to be like, well, why would you give him 50% if you found the deal? Because he don't need me. I need him. He does not need me. If he was able to take that deal down, he would have took the deal down, and within 2 weeks, that deal would have been done and he would have moved on. I was willing to give up 50% because I knew I had nothing. Yes, I have this deal, but I don't know how to work it. I don't know how to make the numbers make sense. I don't know what contracts and what paperwork to do. So I was willing to give him 50% because I'm going to tell you that 50% has now made me a multimillionaire. Real talk. And I would do it again over and over again. And even to this day, if I had a deal that I wasn't able to move or do anything with, I would still give him 50% because he's going to bring me knowledge for things and connections with people that I don't have privy to. So I'm willing to pay for that knowledge. And so, yes, now I do a lot of BRRRRs. I do a lot of development. I do a lot of everything when it comes to real estate, but I still got mentors. I have like 3 mentors, one for being a realtor, one for being real estate investing, one for building. And shoot, I'll talk to anybody that's smarter than me because I don't want to be the smartest person in my group. And if you are the smartest person in your group, I suggest you find a new group because we all need to sharpen each other, and we all need to grow. Yes, I'm at a great place right now, but I'm not where I want to be. So I need to continue to get mentored. Okay, let me see. I talked to you guys about 4 different ways that I have lost money or I've had an L in real estate. One was my wholesale deal that I lost $5,000 that I told you about. The other one was my realtor that told me it was going to appraise for 120 and it really appraised for 103. So get you the right team, get you a right realtor that understands the investing world. The other thing was contractors. And again, I am a work in progress. So when you see me today, I'm still work in progress with that because I can show you tons of houses that I did not do it the right way. So don't be me. Listen to me and don't do what I did. And then getting a mentor, because a mentor is going to guide you and help you throughout the entire process. Okay, so I hope that was of value to you. I hope that gave you a little bit of reassurance that, hey, I may make things look pretty, but the stuff really hits the fan, and it hits the fan often. But the biggest thing is understanding how you overcome those, because there are many days that I have sleepless nights. There are many days that you may see my pictures and I have bags under my eyes because that's real. But I always find a way to just say, hey, I got to shake it off. I got to move on because I'm not doing this for myself. One thing I always tell my mentees is that, what is your why? Because when things get rough, when you think the bid is supposed to be 50,000 and then all of a sudden they tell you, oh, we got to do the whole new plumbing, or, oh my gosh, now we got to change the gas to electric. And those were things that you were not anticipating. You're going to have to pay for that. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't have the money for it. And that is when you have to know your why is stronger than where you are. Your why has to be bigger than yourself. It has to be bigger than just you. And that's what's going to keep you leaps and bounds for keep moving and keep pressing on. So I hope this gave you value. Please let me know whatever else I can do to help, to provide support for you and lift you up. And again, if you have any questions about real estate investing, please feel free to reach out. I missed my co-host Talisa. She'll be with us next week talking about private lending. But again, thank you so much. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. Again, have a wonderful rest of your day.